Behind that cool, detached exterior and those carefully calculated mixed signals of an avoidant lies a psychological storm of want so intense it would shock you if you could see inside their mind for even 5 minutes, while you're interpreting their distance as indifference and their withdrawal as lack of interest. They're fighting a daily battle against feelings so overwhelming that running away feels like their only option for psychological survival. The cruel irony of avoidant attachment is that the more desperately they want you, the more desperately they need to get away from you. Your importance to them isn't measured by how close they stay, but by how hard they have to work to maintain distance. Their withdrawal isn't evidence that you don't matter. It's proof that you matter so much it terrifies them to their core. Every time they pull back, every moment they seem indifferent. Every instance of emotional unavailability is actually their nervous system's panicked response to wanting you more than they've ever wanted anything. They're not running from you because you're unimportant. They're running because you're so important that loving you feels like handing you a loaded weapon and hoping you won't destroy them with it. While you're wondering if they care at all, they're lying awake at night, replaying every conversation, analyzing every moment of connection, and fighting the urge to reach out because they know that getting closer means risking everything they've built to protect themselves. They want you with an intensity that feels dangerous to them, so they've learned to express that want through distance, that love through limitation, that need through denial. The avoidance desire for you operates like a psychological undertow, invisible from the surface but powerful enough to pull them under if they're not constantly fighting against it. They've learned that wanting someone means eventual abandonment, that needing someone means inevitable disappointment, that loving someone means certain pain. So they've developed elaborate strategies to want you while appearing not to need you while pretending they don't, to love you while maintaining the illusion of indifference. You have no idea how many times they've started to text you and deleted it, how often they drive by places that remind them of you, how frequently your name comes up in their internal monologue. You don't know about the dreams where they finally tell you how they feel, the moments of panic when they think you might be moving on, or the profound loneliness that comes from wanting someone so badly while being too afraid to let them know. Their attachment system is screaming that you're the most important person in their world, while their survival system is screaming that attachment to important people means death. They're caught between psychological forces so powerful that maintaining distance feels like the only way to maintain sanity, even though that distance is slowly killing them from the inside. Understanding the depth of their hidden want changes everything about how you interpret their behavior. Their mixed signals aren't confusion. They're the external manifestation of an internal war between love and terror. Their hot and cold patterns aren't games. They're their nervous system's attempt to get close enough to feel connected, but far enough away to feel safe. They want you more than you could possibly imagine. They're just too scared of that wanting to let you see it. The silent obsession, how they think about you constantly. While you're questioning whether you even crossed their mind, the avoidant is conducting a full-time mental occupation with thoughts of you that would qualify as obsessive if anyone could see inside their head. Their physical distance creates a psychological vacuum that gets filled with constant rumination, analysis, and replay of every interaction you've shared. The space they've created between you doesn't eliminate their preoccupation, it intensifies it to levels that feel almost unbearable. Their day begins and ends with you occupying prime real estate in their consciousness. They wake up thinking about whether you're angry at them for not texting back quickly enough yesterday. They go through their morning routine while mentally rehearsing conversations they wish they could have with you. They check their phone compulsively throughout the day, not just hoping for your message, but analyzing the timing, tone, and hidden meaning in every word you send. The avoidance internal monologue runs like a constant background soundtrack featuring your voice, your opinions, your reactions to their choices. They find themselves wondering what you would think about their lunch order, how you would respond to the funny thing their coworker said, whether you would like the song playing on the radio. Your perspective has become so integrated into their thought patterns that they carry on imaginary conversations with you throughout their day. Their mental preoccupation extends to elaborate fantasy scenarios where they finally tell you how they feel, where they overcome their fears and choose vulnerability, where they get to experience the kind of intimacy they crave, but are too terrified to pursue. These fantasies play on repeat during quiet moments, creating a parallel reality where they're brave enough to want you openly, instead of hiding behind walls of self-protection. They memorize details about your life with the precision of someone studying for the most important exam of their existence. They remember what you wear, how you take your coffee, the way you laugh at your own jokes, the exact words you use when you're excited about something. These details become treasured data points they review obsessively, like a collector examining precious artifacts. The avoidance thought patterns around you become so consuming that they affect their ability to focus on other aspects of their life. They're physically present at work, social events, and daily responsibilities. But mentally, they're processing their last interaction with you, planning their next move in your relationship, or worrying about whether they've damaged something irreparable through their latest withdrawal. Their obsession includes constant analysis of your behavior, searching for signs that you're losing interest, moving on, or giving up on them. They scrutinize your response time to messages, the enthusiasm level in your texts, whether you seem different during your interactions. This hypervigilance stems from their terror that their push-pull behavior will eventually exhaust your patience and drive you away permanently. They think about you when they see couples being affectionate in public, wondering what it would feel like to be that open with their feelings. They think about you when they're alone in their apartment, imagining what it would be like to share that space with someone they trust completely. They think about you when they're making decisions, considering how their choices might affect your opinion of them or your relationship dynamic. The most painful aspect of their mental obsession is how they torture themselves with scenarios where they lose you because of their own limitations. They replay conversations where they could have been more open, moments where they could have chosen connection over self-protection, opportunities where they could have been braver about expressing their feelings. This constant self-analysis creates a cycle of regret and anxiety that feeds their obsessive thoughts. Their preoccupation with you extends to monitoring your social media, with the intensity of a private investigator, searching for clues about your emotional state, your social activities, and whether there are signs of other romantic interest in your life. They know your posting patterns, recognize your friends in photos, and can probably recite your recent status updates from memory. The avoidant lives in a constant state of mental preparation for losing you, which ironically makes thoughts of you even more persistent and urgent. They rehearse how they would handle your absence, what they would say if you decided to end things, how they would cope with the void your departure would create. This preparation for loss keeps you perpetually present in their thoughts, even when they're trying their hardest to maintain emotional distance. The fear that drives their distance, why they run from what they want. The avoidance retreat from you isn't evidence of disinterest. It's a panic response to wanting you so intensely that it threatens every psychological defense they've spent years constructing. To understand their behavior, you must grasp that for them, wanting someone deeply feels like volunteering for emotional execution. Their nervous system has been programmed to interpret intense desire as a warning signal that devastation is approaching, making their withdrawal a survival mechanism rather than a relationship choice. Their fear operates on multiple levels simultaneously, creating a psychological perfect storm that makes closeness feel impossible, despite desperately craving it. At the surface level, they fear your judgment, your potential rejection, your eventual departure once you see their flaws and limitations up close. But deeper down, they fear their own capacity for need, their vulnerability to being hurt, and their complete lack of control over outcomes when emotions run high. The terror that drives their distance stems from early experiences that taught them love comes with catastrophic costs. Whether through neglect, inconsistency, or outright abandonment, they learn that caring deeply about someone creates unbearable pain when that person inevitably becomes unavailable. Their current retreat from you isn't about you personally. It's about the universal threat that intimate connection represents to their emotional survival. They experience wanting you as a form of psychological betrayal by their own system. They've worked so hard to become self-sufficient, to need nothing from no one, to maintain emotional independence as their primary source of safety. But then you appeared and triggered feelings so powerful that their carefully constructed autonomy crumbles. leaving them feeling exposed and defenseless in ways that activate every alarm bell in their nervous system. Their withdrawal represents an attempt to regain control over feelings that feel completely out of control. When they realize how much they want you, how much your opinion matters to them, how much your presence affects their emotional state, they panic because they've lost the emotional independence they depend on for psychological security. Distance becomes their method of trying to restore the equilibrium that your importance has disrupted. The avoidant fears that if they let you see the depth of their want, you'll either use it against them or be overwhelmed by the intensity of it. They imagine that revealing their true feelings would make you run away because their desire feels too big, too needy, too much for anyone to handle. They protect you from their intensity by protecting themselves from your potential rejection of it. Their terror includes the realistic assessment that they don't know how to maintain intimate connection without eventually destroying it through their own limitations. They recognize their patterns of withdrawal, their struggles with vulnerability, their tendency to sabotage good things when they get too real. Running away feels like the kinder option compared to staying and inevitably disappointing you through their emotional inadequacies. The fear that drives their distance is also about losing themselves in the relationship. They worry that caring about you as much as they do will erode their identity, that your needs will eclipse their own, that loving you will require them to become someone they're not sure they can sustain being. Their withdrawal is an attempt to preserve the self they know while wanting the connection that would transform them. They're terrified of the dependency that comes with deep attachment. Wanting you means needing you, and needing someone feels like handing over the keys to their emotional well-being to someone who could destroy them without warning. Their distance is an attempt to want you without needing you, to care without becoming dependent, to love without becoming vulnerable to abandonment. The avoidant also fears that their want for you is fundamentally selfish, that they desire your presence, attention, and affection without being able to offer the same in return consistently. They recognize their limitations around emotional availability and fear that pursuing you would be unfair to someone who deserves better than their hot and cold patterns. Their retreat represents a twisted form of self-sacrifice, where they choose their own suffering over the risk of causing yours. They'd rather endure the pain of distance than risk the greater pain of disappointing you, losing you, or discovering that their love isn't enough to overcome their psychological limitations. Their withdrawal becomes an act of protection for both of you, even though it causes pain for both of you. The fear driving their distance is ultimately about the gap between what they want to give you and what they're actually capable of providing. They want to be the partner who shows up consistently, communicates openly, and chooses love over fear. But they recognize that their current capacity falls short of these ideals, making distance feel like the more honest choice than attempting intimacy they can't sustain. The secret suffering, their hidden emotional pain. The avoidance emotional landscape is a battlefield where they fight daily wars against their own feelings, enduring a form of psychological torture that remains completely invisible to the outside world. While you see someone who appears detached and unbothered, they're experiencing a constant state of internal agony that comes from wanting connection while being terrified of it, needing intimacy while being incapable of sustaining it, and loving someone while being unable to express it authentically. Their suffering begins each morning with the weight of decisions they didn't make the day before. The text they didn't send, the call they didn't make, the vulnerability they didn't risk. They wake up carrying the accumulated regret of countless moments where they chose safety over connection, protection over possibility, fear over love. This daily inventory of emotional cowardice creates a chronic shame that eats away at their self-worth. The avoidant lives with a constant ache that feels like homesickness for a place they've never been, the experience of being fully known and loved despite their flaws and limitations. They watch other couples displaying easy affection and feel a longing so intense it's physically painful, combined with the devastating knowledge that they can't access that kind of connection because their own psychological barriers prevent it. Their internal experience includes a relentless soundtrack of self-criticism that would break your heart if you could hear it. They berate themselves for being too scared to love properly, too damaged to maintain healthy relationships, too broken to deserve the kind of connection they desperately want. This inner voice tells them they're fundamentally unlovable, that their limitations make them burdens, that anyone who really knows them will eventually leave. The pain of their self-imposed isolation compounds daily as they realize they're creating the very abandonment they fear through their own behavior. They understand with crystal clarity that their withdrawal pushes away the people they most want to keep close, but they feel powerless to change patterns that feel hardwired into their nervous system. This awareness of their self-destructive patterns adds layers of frustration and helplessness to their emotional suffering. They experience profound loneliness that's different from simply being alone. It's the loneliness of being surrounded by people who care about them while feeling unable to receive that care fully. They're lonely in relationships, lonely in friendships, lonely in their own skin because their psychological barriers prevent them from experiencing the connection that's being offered to them consistently. The avoidant suffering includes the exhausting mental gymnastics required to maintain their emotional walls while desperately wanting someone to break them down. They spend enormous energy appearing fine while feeling like they're drowning, seeming independent while craving interdependence, acting detached while being consumed with attachment. This constant performance of emotional unavailability when they actually want availability drains them completely. Their pain extends to watching you potentially move on or lose interest because of their inability to show up consistently. They torture themselves with images of you finding someone who can give you what they can't, someone who chooses vulnerability over safety, someone who doesn't need walls to feel secure. The thought of losing you to their own limitations creates a special kind of hell that they endure in complete silence. They suffer from a form of emotional phantom limb syndrome, constantly feeling the absence of the connection they want, but can't allow themselves to have. They feel the shape of missing intimacy, the weight of unexpressed feelings, the void where vulnerability should exist. This awareness of what's missing creates a chronic sense of incompleteness that follows them everywhere. The avoidant experiences waves of grief for the person they could be if they weren't controlled by fear, for the relationship they could have if they were braver, for the love they could give and receive if their psychological patterns were different. They mourn the version of themselves that could choose connection over protection, that could risk being hurt for the possibility of being loved. Their hidden suffering includes the shame of knowing they're hurting someone they care about through their emotional unavailability. They see the confusion in your eyes when they withdraw, the hurt in your voice when they're distant, the hope in your expressions when they briefly let their guard down. Knowing they're causing pain to someone they want to protect creates a guilt that eats away at them constantly. The most painful aspect of their secret suffering is the knowledge that it's largely self-imposed. They understand that their emotional barriers, while protective, are also prison walls that keep them separated from everything they actually want. This awareness that they are both the prisoner and the warden of their own emotional jail creates a unique form of psychological torment. Their pain includes the constant vigilance required to monitor their own feelings and reactions, to ensure they don't get too close, don't reveal too much, don't need too deeply. This emotional self-surveillance is exhausting and creates a disconnection from their own authentic experience that adds another layer of suffering to their daily existence. The desperate monitoring how they track your life from afar. The avoidance inability to maintain consistent direct contact with you doesn't eliminate their need to know you're okay. It transforms that need into elaborate surveillance operations that would shock you with their thoroughness and frequency. While maintaining the facade of detachment, they're conducting detailed monitoring of your emotional state, social activities, and relationship status through every available channel, driven by an obsessive need to stay connected to your life without risking the vulnerability of actual connection. Their digital stalking reaches levels that would qualify as professional-grade investigation if it were their actual job. They know your social media posting patterns better than most algorithms, can identify your friends from partial profiles, and have memorized the locations where you frequently check in. They scroll through your photos with the intensity of someone searching for hidden messages, analyzing your facial expressions for signs of happiness, sadness, or potential romantic involvement with others. The avoidant checks your social media multiple times daily, often deleting their browsing history to hide the evidence of their obsession, even from themselves. They screenshot your posts not to keep but to study later, examining every detail for clues about your emotional state and whether their absence is affecting you the way your absence affects them. They know which friends you've been spending time with, what restaurants you've visited, and whether your recent photos show genuine happiness or performed contentment. Their monitoring extends beyond social media to more subtle forms of information gathering through mutual connections. They ask carefully casual questions about you to shared friends, fishing for updates about your well-being, your dating life, and your general state of mind. These conversations are masterfully crafted to seem like polite interest rather than desperate need for information about someone they're supposedly trying to forget. They drive by places they know you frequent, not hoping to see you but somehow needing to be in proximity to spaces you occupy. They might take routes that pass your workplace, your gym, your favorite coffee shop, creating a strange form of connection through geographical overlap. These drive-bys feel both comforting and torturous. They provide a sense of closeness while highlighting the distance they've created. The avoidant memorizes your online activity patterns with frightening accuracy. They know when you typically post, how long you usually take to respond to comments, whether your recent activity suggests you're busy and happy or struggling and lonely. They become experts at reading between the lines of your digital presence, interpreting emoji choices and caption tones like a code they're desperately trying to crack. Their monitoring includes obsessive analysis of your interactions with other people, particularly anyone who might represent romantic competition. They study photos where you appear with potential romantic interests, analyze the timing and nature of comments from people they don't recognize, and torture themselves with scenarios about your dating life during your separation period. They save screenshots of your conversations, not for manipulation purposes but for comfort, something they can review when they're missing you but too scared to reach out directly. They read old text exchanges like love letters, finding meanings and emotions in casual conversations that probably seemed insignificant when they were happening. The avoidance monitoring becomes particularly intense during significant dates, your birthday, holidays, anniversaries of meaningful moments you shared. They check your social media obsessively during these times, both hoping to see signs that you're thinking of them and dreading evidence that you've moved on completely. They often draft messages to you during these occasions, but delete them before sending. Their surveillance includes tracking your emotional patterns through your digital presence. They become experts at reading your moods through the music you share, the quotes you post, the timing of your activity. When you post sad songs or contemplative quotes, they interpret these as signs that you might be missing them. When you post happy content, they experience both joy for your well-being and fear that you're happier without them. They monitor your professional achievements and personal milestones from afar, feeling pride in your successes mixed with sadness that they can't celebrate with you directly. They want to congratulate you on promotions, comfort you during difficulties, and share in your daily victories, but their own emotional barriers prevent them from offering support they desperately want to provide. The most painful aspect of their monitoring is how it keeps them connected to your life while preventing them from being part of it. They know intimate details about your daily experience while being unable to participate in or contribute to your happiness. This creates a unique form of torture where they remain deeply invested in your well-being while feeling powerless to affect it positively. Their desperate monitoring serves as both connection and barrier. It allows them to feel close to you while maintaining the distance their nervous system demands. They satisfy their need to know you're okay without risking the vulnerability that direct contact would require, creating a one-way relationship where they receive information about you without providing access to themselves.